right. Shelly is going to record just for families that aren't able to join, so we will send that out. I would like to just begin with a prayer. This is a community prayer. So in the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. Gracious God, help us to love and support one another. Help us grow our love so deep that it is able and willing to overcome and forgive a multitude of misgivings. Inspire a spirit of hospitality in each of us and enable us to cheerfully share our home. We acknowledge that you have given each of us spiritual gifts. Help us to put our needs aside and use some gifts to serve one another well. We will rely on the strength and energy you supply. We pray that everything we do within this community will bring your glory through the one who lives in us. Amen. Saint Rose of Lima, pray for us. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. Awesome. All right. Well, welcome everybody. The real hope of this Zoom is just to kind of help families to support whatever decision they would like to make in terms of returning to in-person learning or choosing to remain in distance learning. We have a lot of answers, but we also do not have all the answers. So I am just trying to help you guys to have the most informed decision that you can for Friday's commitment form to be made so that we have a very clear picture of who will be coming into the building and who will be remaining distance learning, because a lot of planning takes place based on numbers and we want to make sure that we can make those accurately. So I hope that you've all had some opportunity to review some of the reopening documents that I shared last week. I know there is a lot of information, and while I don't expect you to necessarily read everything line by line, I would highly encourage you to refer to them whenever you have a question about return to school protocols. There is much more detail in our documentation, and it's definitely can be overwhelming to just share it line by line or in a single letter or a video, but it will really prove to be invaluable as a reference material just as we work through this process together. So a lot of time and effort was put into those documentations, and they are what guide all of our decisions. So it's really important to refer to that if you can, because it has a lot of information. Knowing that the school is moving forward with our reopening framework, which we released last week, right now the hope is that we can answer whatever questions you might have in order to, like I said, help you make the best decision that works best for your family. Please keep in mind that whatever you choose in terms of returning to the building in the coming month or remaining in distance learning, that you will have the option to reevaluate after spring break. We most likely will probably have another reevaluation point. That is just as far as we've got right now. So we're kind of making one first wave. Spring break will be our reevaluation, and then we'll go from there. So again, while myself and I have some of my team here, Mrs. Lesh and Mrs. Davidson, while I will not have the answer to every question, I really hope that we can give you enough clarity to help you be confident in the decision that you want to make. So I would really love to open things up for questions. We didn't get any questions that were posed in our document. So I don't have those to go off of, but I do have some questions that were given to me in a few emails after the fact. And so I would love to just go through those real quick, if that's okay with everybody, just because those might be the questions that you have. So sit back, relax, enjoy, and just listen to some of our wonderful reopening topics. Okay. So first up was a question of why did the school make the switch from the proposed 2 hours, 2 days a week to full-blown full days? So initially, we had thought that bringing students into the building in 2-hour increments would be a logical way just to kind of ease into in-person. We quickly learned from the survey that you all filled out that it was not feasible for many of our families. Our reopening task force team then immediately began working through other scenarios that would be viable for students, parents, and teachers. Ultimately, we just decided that to the extent possible, a routine with as much in-person time as possible would be the most beneficial. So full days gives the teachers and the students enough time for academic work and socialization, while also still allowing for all the many safety protocols that we have to keep in place to keep everybody safe. One other driving factor was the timely action on the part of the governor to make vaccines available to educators sooner than we thought. So that was a question. Another question was, can I explain a little bit more about the metrics supporting our reopening? Because the metrics was what was driving us for staying in distance learning. So knowing the critical nature of in-person time with early learners especially, and through statistical evidence from schools and regions that are practicing this successful in-person instruction, the state of Oregon amended these metrics on January 19th. So we were originally following these metrics, and on January 19th, they amended them. And as indicated in a particular chart of Multnomah County, we now fall in the orange zone. The red zone was distance learning. The orange zone, is the category that's telling us that we can have elementary on site and we can have a hybrid transition. So the state is recommending that we start with the younger students, phasing in additional grades over time, and with each expansion, we're permitted through, like, if it's safe and we're not having to close down because of cases, we can keep just working along and plugging and adding more grades. So our goal is to start with kinder and then be able to transition the rest of the grades as we have shared, as far as about a week in between. Before I continue, feel free to put stuff in the chat. So if you have questions kind of in connection with this and you need clarification or anything like that, please put it in the chat. I'm happy to be glancing at that as we go. I know these are just some probably hot items, so I just would like to get to these questions that a few emails had shared. The next question was, why not do cohorts for our younger grades and a more hybrid approach instead of what we are choosing with just hybrid for middle school? So just the answer to that is that the experience of what schools are doing as far as those that are operating in person, it's showing that it's really valuable to the younger grades, pre-K through 5, to be in the building full time, instead of breaking these classes into 2 cohorts who come on different days. So we chose to bring those grades back full time. And then if we need to, we'll split the class into a second classroom if we need to remain with the 35 square feet physical distancing per child. So for example, it is most likely going to happen that second grade will be split into 2 cohorts. They will both be coming on campus every day, but one will be in second grade, and most likely the other will be across the hall in the former kindergarten class, because kindergarten is moving to the library. So that's kind of why we're not doing cohorts. Another question was, there isn't much time or spacing maybe to properly evaluate between the different grade blocks coming back. So why not have more time in between them? So this is kind of like kindergarten's coming back and we'll have a week and a half with them. And then first grade and second grade will be back, and we'll have a week in between. So I think the question is, why not a larger gap? So we as a team felt that after kindergarten returns on February 8th, and we have that larger gap of about a week and a half, we will be able to really evaluate the protocols and make adjustments as needed. And if for any reason we do not feel confident in bringing the next wave back, we will adjust as needed. That's where we really want to be transparent with you guys. If something isn't going as smoothly, as we thought, we will adjust and let you guys know if we need a longer time before the next cohort starts. Another question was, why not wait until the teachers are protected, with the 2 weeks after the second dose? So in connection with that, prior to the vaccine release, the CDC has stated that schools have reported that protocols of hand washing, mask wearing, physical distancing are all incredibly effective in protecting against the spread of COVID-19. So since many schools have already been operating successfully pre-vaccine, we are confident in this phased approach of bringing students back into the building. Most of our staff actually will receive their second dose before first and second grade even re-enter the building. So that's just a little fact to know. We all have received our first vaccine. All right. Another question was, will we have mask standards? So we have stated that every individual must properly wear a mask while in the school building or on the school property, in addition to maintaining the 6 feet distance as much as possible. Face shields aren't going to be acceptable to just do the face shield. If you want to do a face mask and a face shield, you of course could do that. But ODE does not require mask standards at this point in time. So we are sticking with just wear a mask. Okay, I'm almost done, I promise, and then I'll let people ask other questions. The next question was about spring break. So even if families don't travel, so this is the question, even if families don't travel for spring break, they may still interact with people outside of their immediate families and increase the risk upon return to school. So how can we do this safely? So the question is kind of, will you require anybody who has had indoor contact with people outside their immediate family to wait 2 weeks before they return to school? So we as a state and as a school are asked to abide by Oregon's travel advisory, which includes the following recommendations. And that is that persons that are arriving in Oregon from other states or countries, including returning Oregon residents, should practice self-quarantining for 14 days after arrival. So these people should limit their interactions to the immediate households. It talks about how non-essential travel includes travel that is just for tourism or recreational in nature. So what we're hoping is that you guys are in partnership with us and being very honest with us. And if you are traveling somewhere for spring break, then you need to let us know, and you should not be returning back to campus for school. You should be quarantining for the amount of time, and that can be something I can talk with families privately. And then you can remain in distance learning, and then we can talk about your reentry. But that is really important, that the only way that we're going to be able to remain in person safely is if families are doing what they're supposed to outside of school. And we unfortunately cannot, I don't want to use the word police, but that's just the only word that's coming to mind. But we can't police what you guys are doing outside of the school grounds. So please be responsible and safe, and help us all to keep our students safe, our faculty safe, and everybody in person for as long as we can. That's going to be really, really important. Okay, that was a lot of me talking. So I am going to pause and Well, actually, I'm going to check the chat box. So hold on and we will go from there. So chats. What are the cleaning protocols for the bathrooms? Will there be a janitor on site for cleaning use? So we are in full swing with working through all the protocols for cleaning. We have bought static backpack sprayers with disinfectant. We've bought a huge backpack one, and then we have a few just hands-free. I don't know, you have to use your hands, but smaller ones. And then we have tons of cleaning supplies. So at this point, we're working on our system of just how often things need to get cleaned. I'm also hiring more aides to help with that, because what's going to happen is, like, there will be in-house cleaning that the staff will do while the school is in session. And then we will have our continuous contract with Total Building Maintenance, and they will be doing their deep cleaning every evening. And so we are working through having designated bathrooms for grades. So they're kind of in a zone and a pod. And so that only certain bathrooms are being used by certain grades. So we will also be putting in all of the teachers' schedules designated bathroom and hand washing breaks, so that they're doing that often and often and often. So that's kind of what's going on so far with our cleaning plans. Mask standards, gaiters, bandanas, high schools are implementing. I will for
More
sure.
of a comment, not a question. Sorry, just as feedback. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Thanks. Thanks, Ryan. We are not going to have an official contract for returning to school. Your guys' commitment with with signing like the handbook, and by just sending your children to school will be showing us that you are going to be following all of the things that we are asking. And we will be doing things like, unfortunately, not allowing people in the building if they don't have masks. We do have masks, so we will be able to easily hand off masks if you forget them at home. But from what I have heard from other schools and just from the DCS, there isn't a specific contract we have you guys sign. We are just telling you our policies, and the return to school framework that we're putting out is what we're following. And so if you are sending your child to school, then you're telling us that you will abide by those requirements. So Kelly, are you asking about a mask with a plastic filter?
Yeah, I was just kind of I was listening to the mask standards and stuff, and I also thought you meant, are you going to have a mask standard like no gaiters, or the approved masks are, cloth or N95 or with or without that little filter thing, and what if you were having any standards or throwing anything out there that said this isn't going to work, or everything will work.
Gotcha. Great. I will make sure that Shelly and Carrie work with me, so we just kind of have a specific line in case people are worried about masks. What I'm imagining is everybody has the standard with just, it goes over your ears and it stays, versus the bandana and the gaiter. I don't know if that's the right word. As far as a plastic filter, if that's in your mask and you want to do that, go for it, but we don't have to say everybody does, but we'll make sure that is communicated clearly.
I actually think the ones with the plastic filter I've heard are not so great, because they allow the breath of the wearer to come out of the filter. Maybe not everything is filtered. And so I just heard that was maybe more of it on the negative side than the positive side for helping.
Gotcha. I'll write that down. I'm not sure. The next question I see is about safety protocols for lunchtime and taking off masks. Great questions. So for lunch and for snack is when the children will take off their mask. They will be eating lunch and snack at their desk in their class, safely distanced from their classmates with the required 35 square feet or more distance. So that will be the one time they will be, or two times that they'll be taking off their masks. The younger grades, the teachers will be working to just come up with kind of smile breaks, little breaks to just briefly take it off, to breathe safely. And then, well, we're breathing no matter what, but you know what I mean, to take it off, to have a break, to put it back. But really, we are encouraging, and our pre-K students have been the ones that have been driving this. They're rocking it. They're wearing their masks and doing great. So we will be requiring masks for all the students, especially except for when they're eating. We will be requiring masks at recess, as well as when they're in PE. And the same thing will go for staff as well. In terms of the specialist, right now, the direction we have been given is that you're trying to minimize cohorts going to the same shared areas. So that's why most classes are just going to be remaining in their class, except for if they're going out to recess. So the specialist classes, PE, except for PE, because I'll talk about PE in a sec, but art and music will be in the classroom. And so the teacher will be coming to like the first grade classroom. They will not be going to the art classroom or the music classroom at this time. PE, we're going to do outside as much as absolute possible. And then if needed, they will be in the classroom, and Miss Christine will come up with some creative ways to do some PE in the classroom. At this point in time, there's a very good chance that the gym could need to be used as a classroom. So that space needs to be possibly revamped. So in terms of those participating in distance learning, and I'll just talk in general because this conversation is just about middle school, but there's probably going to be some families that are choosing distance learning anyways. We are in the planning stages of figuring out how much we want the kids to swivel in, and a good balance also of doing asynchronous learning. So the swivel is a very cute little robot that just allows for movement from the teacher and for good sound to be able to hear like the classmates that are in the classroom as well as the teacher. And so there was 4 of us that got trained using the swivel last night, and we will train the rest of the teachers, and then we'll start implementing them. What we'll do is we'll figure out how many kids in each class are distance learning, and that will kind of drive the direction we go, if it's 1 or if it's 5. But we do want to make sure that those students that are at home are getting a great education as well. So we'll be figuring out times for them to be sure to live stream in using the swivel, times where they don't have to be on, but they're doing another activity. And then middle school especially, I'm going to be talking with them actually Thursday about what their schedule looks like, since they're in a hybrid. We're trying to figure out what the best scenario is for that. Because right now, kind of what's going on is it better for the teacher to be focused on just the 15 that are in her class or his class, while the other 15 is doing asynchronous, or should we have the 15 that are at home in the different cohorts swiveling in? So that's what we're going to be brainstorming as a middle school team, the most effective way to do that. And there's also, of course, like an odd teacher based on, 6th, 7th, and 8th. So it could be that, Mrs. Penwell is with 6th grade that's at home, while the 6th grade that's in the building is with Mr. Marino doing math or something like that. So we're going to have to really hack that one out. But we are excited because there's lots of possibilities. But yes, that's definitely one I don't have a flat out answer for, unfortunately, right this minute. We wish we could do singing, but that's probably one of the most scary ones to do because of the, which I'm sure you're asking that, Megan, in more of a no, don't do it. But so we will not be really doing any singing. So we will be doing other forms of musical talent. So if a teacher is sick, which we already are kind of preparing for this, because I know we have a lot of people on this call that are even that are in the medical field, or even just have known people that have got vaccine too. Apparently that can be, you cannot feel so great after the second dose. So we're kind of trying to prep for what that will look like, because unfortunately there are not a ton of substitutes out there. But we do have enough right now in-house people. We can float people around. Like it might be Miss Christine is not able to do PE on this day because maybe we need coverage in another class, but we could push out an asynchronous lesson instead. I, of course, am happy to jump on and sub for any class as well. So, and then we're also in the middle of hiring for at least one, if not two more aides to also kind of support the need for subs. Because that is a very real thing right now with being sick. So we have a very large document that states all the protocols for managing an exposure or even a possible exposure. So it's honestly a flow chart, and it's just kind of like, if this happens, then you go here. If this happens, then you go here. And then, so we will be following all of the ODE, CDC, OHA guidelines for exposures. And I have a liaison person for the health authority that I'm supposed to connect with if we have an exposure. So we did have what we thought was a possible exposure in pre-K, and that was just honestly kind of good practice for kind of what just needs to happen. We are definitely going to err on the side of incredibly cautious, and so we will let you know as soon as something happens. We do need to remain confidential as far as knowing exactly, who it was or what happened. I will not be able to share that, but I will be able to share, that your child was in a class with the possible exposure. Now this is what we're going to do. And so your teachers are preparing right now for what that will look like, because if we do have an exposure and we do need to quarantine, that does mean that we have to flip the switch and we have to go back to distance learning for a particular class. That does not necessarily mean the entire school has to quarantine, but if there's a sibling in another class, then that goes to kind of the web of everything. So it's really important that just in our partnership, that if you feel like anything's happening on your end with a possible exposure or anything like that, to please not be embarrassed or nervous or anything. Like we need to know so that we can make sure everybody on our end is safe, and we will do the exact same for you guys. It is really important that we just try to keep everybody safe as best as possible. So with that, your students will be continuing to keep their Google accounts and their Google Classroom accounts, because we do need to be prepared if we do have to go to a quarantine, and they will just pick up their distance learning if they can't be in person for a short amount of time. So your teachers, will talk about the fact that your children are probably going to be asked to take their backpack back and forth with a lot of materials back and forth, because if all of a sudden at 6 p.m. at night, we get a call that there's something, and the next day we need to say, sorry, school's not happening in person, it's happening at home, then the kids will have all their materials and we'll just be ready to flip. So obviously nothing that anybody wants to do, but we are very much prepared for something like that to happen. Lindsay, that is a great question about going back and forth, kind of into digital learning and back. My gut My gut wants to be, we really don't want to necessarily kind of have people floating in and out because it's a little bit harder to regulate that. But let me make sure someone on my team writes that one down so we can check in. Do know that, I mean, I know we're not in normal times, but I mean, if your child had a dentist appointment on a normal day and they just didn't return because they had a dentist appointment, then they had a dentist appointment. Like, we'll catch them up. So I know there's this weird, like, well, they can still just go on at home and watch it, which yes, they can, but don't go crazy with trying to like balance all of that. That's kind of what I'm also going to say. Like, things happen, you know, we might get a snow day and we're going to have a snow day, even if we could be in distance learning, because kids deserve a snow day. So, but I will, Lindsay, we will talk a little bit more about that one because that is a great question. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about I have my notes here about testing asymptomatic, pre-symptomatic cases, because it looks like that also came up in the chat. As far as kind of testing is not mandatory by the state, but that kind of thing. So on-site testing is not something that we have the resources to effectively manage at this time. But according to the Ready School Safe Learners, which is the ODE large document, Multnomah County still falls in this orange zone, which prioritizes that we can carefully phase people in. So that's why we're able to do that without an on-site testing, excuse me. So because we're following the state metrics in this particular way, on-site testing is not required for us at this time. The new ODE requirement is to offer access to on-site testing related to advisory metrics that are in effect only if your school is located in a county that does not meet the advisory metrics. So that's kind of the key. We are in metrics that are saying we can come back in person. If we transition to being in person when we're not supposed to because of the metrics, then we will have to explore what the on-site testing looks like. Great question. All right. So cold and flu season is among us, and allergies, and you know, all those fun things that it's hard to tell if you're sick or if you're not. So we are telling everybody on staff, and this goes for families as well, that you guys need to err on the wayside of cautious, because what I've heard as far as COVID symptoms are totally across the board. A cold could be it, a runny nose, but I think you guys just need to know, and this would be a great connection with what Lindsay asked about, you know, can you stay home if you need to? We would suggest staying home and doing distance learning if your child is somewhat sick, even a little bit, because we just don't know what type of symptoms it might be, and it's just not worth putting anybody at risk. So please, please, please keep your child home if they do not feel well. If any child tells any of the staff members that they don't feel well during the day, we're not questioning it. They will be sent to the office. We will take their temperature, but we will still say, oh, you have a tummy ache or a headache. Okay, then we're going to call mom and dad or grandma and grandpa, and they're going to come get you. We don't have the bandwidth to figure out what is that COVID or is that not. I mean, we don't know. Clearly, nobody knows. So we're just going cautious. If you don't feel well, we're sorry, but you need to go home, and it's okay. Okay, now I'm just kind of reading some comments because I'm trying to get to the questions. So sorry, as you guys just have to wait, wait here and watch. Great question about, so we will be doing screening every morning upon drop off. So what is going to happen is you will get back in that car line and you'll be driving through and you'll have all these fun staff members that'll be there smiling under their masks. And we will have our clipboard with questions and we will have our touchless thermometers, and we will walk right up to your car. We will ask you to roll down your window and then we will take your child's temperature right there in the car. Please be cautious about bumping up the heat as you drive in, because we have seen that that does make the temperature rise. So please be cautious of that, because we're going to play it safe. And if there's a temperature, we're going to say sorry and we can't let you in. So be cautious of that. But we will be taking temperatures when they're in the car. That way, if there is a red flag of a temperature, we will just ask that you stay in your car and that you stay home and do distance learning, or even go take a nap or go back to sleep if you don't feel well. And then we will ask the driver, and depending on the age of the kid, how they're feeling. So that will kind of be the temperature check. Like, do you have any symptoms of COVID? And we'll ask you some symptom questions. And then after you have said yes or no to those questions, you have done your temperature check, then you will be asked to exit the car and you will go join your class in line, and the teachers will be there and we will just be spread out, socially distanced on the playground. And then my team is working on ways to safely enter the building, kind of crowd control, so that not everybody is entering at the same time. That's another reason why we're phasing grades in, to kind of help with the flow of traffic of what ways we're entering and exiting. There are touchless hand sanitizers at all entry and exit points. So kids will be asked to do that when they enter, and then they will immediately go to their class, and then their classroom will, they'll have their procedures of dropping stuff off, and then they'll be going to wash their hands. So all those things will be happening. If you are riding your bike or walking to school, we're going to have kind of an area that's kind of marked, and that will be the, hey, drop off your bike, or if you're walking or if you're scootering, check in with this teacher. They will do the temperature check right there with you in front. Obviously, the only caveat is you cannot leave with your parent because you walked. But if they are not feeling well or have a temperature check, we will do one of two things. We'll probably call the office and say, hey, Johnny's not feeling well. Do you want him to walk home, or do you want him to wait safely in our COVID isolating safe spot and come and pick him up? So we'll have that conversation with you guys so that we make the safest choice for your child. I like the Mary Randazzo part. Okay, I'm gonna go back real quick. So Dave, you're asking if you have to end up staying home, will you have copies like on the Google Classroom that you can just print out? Is that what you're asking?
Oh, Dave's me. I'm on his name. Yes, just if there's a place to access so I can print off, kindergarten worksheets really quick and join in digitally in a meaningful way.
Gotcha.
It really throws off kids if they're on a blank sheet of paper versus the actual worksheet.
Yes. Yes, that will be an option. The thing that we'll just need you guys to do is be patient and flexible with us, because we will be assuming, everybody's going to be in the building that we know is in the building. And if you change your plans and you're needing to stay home, the teacher might not have the items on Google Classroom, because maybe the kids that we already know are doing distance learning have already picked them up at a material exchange. So I'm not saying you won't get them, but I'm just saying that be a little flexible, that it might not be until a recess break, or we'll have our aides kind of running around and helping with that. But we do understand how important it is to have hands-on items.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I appreciate, these are great questions. These are the questions that Shelly, Carrie, and I need to hear. Megan Schuber's also on this team, but wasn't able to attend. But these are just important for us to hear, because there's so many elements to all of this. So we'll all do our best and make sure, we're being safe in the process. staggering start time. So we have, we've discussed that. We haven't come to a plan quite yet. We originally thought, yes, we were going to stagger. And then we thought, you know what? I think we're going to be okay on the playground, all spread out. So I think after we have first and second in the building, and that means we'd have 4 grades out there, I think we'll have a better realization of really what it's like out on the playground in terms of keeping kids distanced and safe. So there's a possibility that there might be a kind of a staggered start, and we'll let you guys know that as soon as possible. But for right now, we had just planned on just doing that kind of 7:40 to 7:45 drop off time until 8, and just it kind of eventually kind of staggers itself out just because of those families that drop off really early and those that drop off later. So we just kind of figured we'd see what we need. And then what we had talked about was the possibility of having designated areas that each class goes. So like kindergarten's going through the courtyard while first grade's going up the ramp, and then, you know, kind of breaking up their entry points, and then they'll get their hand sanitizer as they go. For right now, I'm not going to share how many people are coming back in classes, just because people are still kind of making their decisions after this chat. I think this is kind of hopefully helping some people decide what's best for their family as far as classes. And I appreciate you guys understanding that we do need a commitment by Friday, because it is really important for us to know the numbers in each grade for just this first phase, so we can start setting up the classrooms accurately, and we can figure out if there are spaces that need to be moved. And as you know, that takes some time. So we gotta know those numbers so we can start planning. Joyce, great question. I'm not sure what point of the video this is. It could be like the 20-minute mark, but we are still working out our schedule for what middle school cohorts are going to look like when they're at home. So you'll get more information on that later, if they're going to be some asynchronous while some swiveling in, or if it's just swiveling for those students that are not in that cohort, that are in the cohort but are distant. So middle school team is working through that this week. And Carrie and Shelley, if you want to jump in at all, feel free. I'm going to keep reading. Yes, we will definitely send information to families, because we know everybody is not on this call or may not even watch this recording. So we definitely will send information out as it gets closer about spring break and about best practices and what we're really highly encouraging families to do to make sure that everybody is staying safe. Your teachers are going to be in contact with you about supply lists. The K1 and 2 teams are meeting with me all day Thursday. So if you are a kindergarten, first or second grade family, you have probably already heard from your teacher that that's going to be a no instruction day, except for Reptile Man and a possible special if they had a specialist class. But that is because the 3 of us and the aides are going to just be kind of hashing a bunch of stuff out and planning all that. So our hope is that you do not have to buy really any supplies. The hope is that you have what you need already at home, and you will just be asked to start bringing it back and forth from school to home. And then I'm also working with Mrs. Beatty in regards to art supplies. So the hope is that maybe the art supplies you have just stay at home, and then the art supplies you need, we will provide at the school, and they will be in their class when they need it. So yeah, we're working through all of that. we'll also tell you things like, you know, it's best practice to bring at least one extra mask in case you drop it or you spill your water on it. I mean, it could dry, but just to have a spare. We also have plenty of spares. We have lots and lots of PPE things, and we have lots of hand sanitizer. So, you know, you're welcome if you want to put a little hand sanitizer in your child's supply kit. Yes, but we have nice new mounted hand sanitizers in all the classrooms and lots of jugs to fill them up. We bought a lot over the summer, and now we will get to use it. Cohorts for middle school, they are deciding that this Thursday, how we're going to break up the middle school to best serve everybody. So that discussion will be made very soon and shared soon as well, because we know you guys would like to plan and know if you're in the Monday, Tuesday cohort or if you're in the Thursday, Friday cohort. So we'll try to get that to you as soon as possible.
Ms. Penwell, I'm sorry, I'm jumping in front of the chat. I'm going to have to dash soon. And my question is about middle school, which is you guys are meeting on Thursday to figure out all of this stuff, correct?
Oh, not all of it. We're like, it's got to be in chunks.
Take a step. But then Friday is our deadline for committing, correct? So
Yes.
when do you, so I had questions like, if you're at home for those 2 days, by the way, which 2 days? And if you're at home for those 2 days, are you swiveling in? And if you decide to stay home, do you swivel in for all 4 days? So all of those questions, I understand if you don't have answers for, and then the check-ins that teachers are gonna do if you're at home swiveling, you know, so if you don't have all the answers, but you're meeting, I think you said on Thursday, and you want a commitment on Friday, so what kind of timeline do you have for sharing whatever it is you figure out on Thursday?
I guess the hard part might be for me, like, well, I guess I'm trying to figure out if people are making their decision. I mean, my hope is that people are making their decision based on safety. Like, yes, you're feeling safe to come in the building and follow all our protocols, or no, you're not feeling safe, and so you're staying at home. My fear is that maybe people are starting to make a decision about just which process they like better, if that makes sense. In-person learning is going to be better no matter what, hands down. But obviously we're going to make the best of what we can if people do have to remain home. So we do want you to kind of have that lens when you're making the decision is, yes, you feel safe to re-enter the building and follow, or no, we don't feel super safe, so we'll be remaining in distance learning and following that path. We want to get the best instruction for the students, but the teachers to give to the students. And so the swivel, and again, my team, feel free to chime in. But the swivel, the primary goal of the swivel was to swivel in those students that were not able to come in the building because of health and safety reasons. Not necessarily swivel them in because they're just at home. So right now, the direction I'm leaning to is that most of the swiveling will be done if you're in cohort A, let's say, you're a Monday, Tuesday cohort, and you, for health and safety reasons, are choosing to stay home, then cohort A students will swivel in. While cohort B cohorts are doing more asynchronous lesson with a variety of possible live as we figure out the schedules of the middle school team, because they could be doing live PE in cohort B while cohort A is with all the other core subject teachers. So there is a little bit of a scheduling nightmare that's kind of I'm dreaming about, because there's a lot of moving puzzle pieces to this. And we were really diligent with our distance learning schedules, but unfortunately, those distance learning schedules do not translate to in-person. And so that's what we're now trying to figure out. Like, I'm going to give an example. Miss Christine, on a particular day in a 45-minute period, is technically teaching 2 classes. One, she's teaching live while the other is doing a recorded. And that's to help with like coverage and things like that. So now all of those, she clearly can't be in two places at once. So now we have to kind of go back and start a little bit from scratch. So we've been starting it. It's definitely a process, but it's a process. We also extended Miss Christine's contract to Fridays. So now we have another day. And so that's another thing that has now just transpired. So she'll now have 5 days of teaching. So that will help. But there is just unfortunately a lot of juggling around to get all of the schedules to line up. So I apologize, Joe, if that doesn't really help. If you need any more specific questions, I am happy to have like our own conversation. If by Friday you're just like, I still don't know, I'm happy to try and walk some through things with you.
I'm going to say thank you, Noah. And I saw Shelley, you raise your hand. I do have to hop off because my son has to get on for Canvas learning for driver's ed class. Anyway, they do grow up fast. No, I mean, I think the safety stuff is good. It was more the logistics stuff. And then the fact that you guys are meeting on Thursday, and I'm like, okay, well then so that's all. I'll stop talking. Shelley, what were you going to say?
I was just going to add that, we have built in the after spring break option of starting in person at that time if you feel like you don't have the information you need to make the decision that's best for your family. So just know that that's there for you.
Thank you, Shelley. Thank you, Joe. No, that's a great question. And I wish I had those answers, all of the answers.
I have one question to follow up on that.
Oh. Hold on, Lisa. I'm going to have the Haggertys go first, then you can go.
I was curious if you have the capabilities for a swivel and having the at-home kids in the same classroom, why you wouldn't just go that route so that all the kids are essentially in the same classroom, whether they're digitally or in person?
A portion of it is just teaching style, like having focus. And I know that it can be difficult to focus on one group, and let's say something happens in person you need to deal with, and then having a whole other group that just has to sit kind of and wait. It's not saying it couldn't happen. It just is trying to figure out if that's the best teaching model, is just to have kids swivel in versus if they're older and they can be watching like a pre-recorded lesson that a teacher's done and kind of be doing a little bit more self-paced if that's the best direction to go. So it definitely could be. And in what I'm going to kind of be really brainstorming with the middle school team is just kind of what makes most sense maybe by subject. Because if we're doing like a science lab, it might be easiest for Mrs. Penwell to have all the science labs happen in person while the kids at home are maybe doing something different because of materials. So that's the other kind of thought is subject based. What's kind of the best practices in teaching?
Okay.
Lisa, go ahead.
I think there's a Nick Fideli question coming up, but that was his doppelganger in the other room. So please ignore it and move on.
All right.
Thanks,
I'm going to check chat real quick to see if I missed anything. Mass question. So right now, the plan for Mass, because they have also their own safety requirements to follow, is that if the whatever class is in charge of Mass, they will go and get to be in the church and participate in Mass and sit safely distanced where they should and do the readings and whatnot. And then everybody else will stream in for the Mass. That's our initial plan for right now. And then we'll rotate and figure out how to best get kinder, pre-K, and first, because they don't do Mass, or they do Mass. They don't lead the Mass. First grade does, but way down the line. And so in the spring, later spring, so we'll figure out an opportunity for maybe them to do it while maybe just a few 8th graders read or something like that, because the 8th graders will at this point in time be at home on the Wednesday days. So we can plan to have some 8th graders come in and possibly sit in at Mass. I know Father Matt would love that. So we can definitely have the 8th grade class come in, but we'll just kind of have to work out who comes in on what days. The question about, okay, so Lisa, are we not asking the questions about will teachers be available on email?
So Nick was cooking and had his iPad on in the other room and left it on. And now he's sitting here with me. So that didn't come from Nick Fideli. Just being totally honest here now.
Gotcha.
Might have come from a 6th grade student.
We will be figuring out how teachers are available throughout the day, because that's another thing. You know, if a cohort's in the building learning all day in the middle school, then clearly they're not going to be available as readily available on email. So that's something we also will take into consideration when planning, and really also figuring out maybe if we need to move office hours to be maybe more of like a lunchtime, like like more of a half day mark, to kind of help support that rather than having them at the end of the day. So we'll have to work through that as well, because that will definitely be different, because teachers will be now teaching and won't be able to just be glancing at their email as much as they normally would. That was a great question for whoever asked it. So yes, middle school will have school on Wednesday. That will just be everybody's digital day. And that was just to keep with consistency of 2 days for each cohort. And so that might also be a really intentionally planned time of time to check in with groups and individual kids as well. Oh, do teachers have Amazon wish lists? I'm sure they do. So yes, if you want to reach out to your specific teacher, I'm sure they would gladly say some things on Amazon that might help with stuff. I know that we're trying to get things that teachers need to help support learning, but yeah. I will definitely bring the mass question up to our leadership team about chapel versus mass. I do know that they've been doing great with their protocols and safety measures. The staff goes in every Wednesday, and we have mass on our Wednesday mass days while everybody else is watching from home. And so there is intensive cleaning protocols that happen between each group. So
I think, Christine, I'll just add, I think there might be clarification. We will still have our school mass separate from the 8 a.m. parishioner mass, correct? So the people won't be in the same space at the same time. They will school mass will happen after the 8 a.m. parishioner mass. So that bubble will remain intact.
Perfect. Thank you. Sorry, read that wrong. Thank you guys for your kind words. Are there any other questions? I was hoping to kind of keep this to an hour just because I know you guys have evenings to get to. But I will check on our last few here. So as far as if you go home sick, that will be something also that I will refer to our protocol of if we have to have a test in order to return, or if symptoms just have to be cleared, temperature. So that will also be shared. We'll make sure to share that complete documentation. All right, well, I hope this was somewhat helpful in order just as you guys kind of decide what's best for your family. So just in moving forward, what I really do and what the team just and the whole staff just really ask of you is just for your trust. We really believe that you chose St. Rose because you trusted us with your child's education. And we really do take that very seriously. And our intent still has not changed. What has changed is just that we find ourselves in the midst of a really crazy time in a pandemic. And we just have to educate differently and be able to adapt when needed. So that's kind of, I think, one of the hardest things for me to just say is that I don't know, or I'm still thinking that through, because there is a lot of things to consider. I do want you to just really believe that you have our word that we're going to be very thoughtful in preparing all of our facilities and our teachers and our students for this very big transition. It's going to be very exciting, but it also is a very big transition. So just know that, especially, the first couple of days when your kids start to return, I know I've just been talking with the younger grades, but this goes for all grades. They haven't been in the building since last March. That is a long time. So even just going over simple protocols of, oh, you can't just get up and do whatever you want right now, or go grab a bagel because you have been when you're at home, so that's going to be a little bit of an awakening for our kids. And so if you can even just on your end kind of start prepping your kids, if you choose to go back in the building, of that school is going to look different. It's going to be exciting and it'll be fun. And some of them might not even face them because they're just back in the building and they're so excited, but it is going to be different. And so we just want to acknowledge that it is going to be different, but we are still going to have the same mission and plan in mind and vision to get there. So I appreciate all of you. I'll make sure not to leave the chat yet because you guys are all writing really nice things and I want to read them. But thank you guys all for taking time out of your evening. And if things come up, outside of this that you have questions about, please, you can always email or give the office a call and we will try to get back to you as soon as possible with answers. So please, I hope this helps with making your decision for just this first phase. And I'll see you guys all later. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Christine.
You're welcome. Bye, Megan.
Bye.
Bye, Steve. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye, Kelly. Bye, Ben. Bye, Sylvie. Bye, Harry. Bye, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Matt. It was fun to see Evan today.
See ya.
Bye.
Well done. Good work, Christine.
Awesome. All right, you want to press stop?
Yep.
Oh.